Thank you so much for joining us today. If we haven't met before, my name is Alex McKelvie. I'm the Interim Dean at the Whitman School of Management, and I've been a faculty member here since 2007. I've had a number of different roles here within the Whitman School, and so I'm delighted to share on some of the new progress, new updates, and really share a good message of what is happening here at the Whitman School that can make all of you very proud of what we're doing. We will open up for Q&A at the end. And so if you see the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, that would be the place to put in your questions and answers, or put in your questions, and I'll try my best to get to the answers at the end of my prepared remarks. So one of the first things I'd like to say is that the Whitman School continues its upwards descent. We are, so tremendously proud of a lot of the things that are going so well here at the Whitman School, and it's really it's remarkable how much progress we've made over a short period of time. And I mentioned that before. We'll focus primarily on the very positive remarks. I do want to also compliment our students for the way that they've been addressing some of the conflict and issues related to the war in the Middle East. Our students have been thoughtful, kind, and supportive of each other during what is very clearly a difficult time that's affecting so many in our community. And so although we're certainly not perfect in any regards, I will say that people are trying their best, and that the Whitman School itself and our students are doing remarkably well despite a lot of the challenges that they are currently facing, because what's going on in the world is truly horrific, and we're so appreciative of them being so mindful and thoughtful in their response to this. So one of the first things I'd like to address is the new leadership structure at the Whitman School. So you should recognize me. I'm the one with striped tie. And the new executive dean is Mike Haney. Mike Haney is also the vice chancellor of the university. Many people will recognize him for his role in leading and developing our military and veteran-related programs. But Mike, too, is also a Whitman faculty member. He arrived 1 year before I did. And so Mike and I have been working together since the mid-2000s in the same department, which was entrepreneurship. And having Mike on board is really going to help to accelerate our progress, to accelerate a lot of the new initiatives we have in place. And what the change in structure really implies is that we have direct access to the chancellor and to the board of trustees through the chancellor. And so having Mike, with his leadership experience, with his ability to fundraise, drive improvements, and really be a vocal advocate for the Whitman School, has already shown some clear early points, but also going to help some of the long-term trajectory. And to say the clear early points, one is visible in the background of that picture. So many of you will recognize the Flom Grand Hall and what was historically a yellow wall. One of the first things that we did with Mike on board is really trying to reinvigorate the building, emphasizing the place where we spend so much time working with students, working with faculty, working staff. And so you see that wall was painted on brand in orange. We've had other similar improvements, investments back into the building and across the programs with Mike's leadership. And part of what we've been trying to do is rebuild a culture of inclusion, its success, and a lot of pride in what we're doing, including having barbecues with students to welcome them back to campus, and a lot of other programming that I'll tell you about in the near future. But I wanted to make sure that one of the new important things for the Whitman School involved a new leadership structure where Mike is now the executive dean. I remain the academic dean in my second year in this role, and working together with the rest of the faculty and staff to support our students. And we've had a great incoming class. This was another banner year for the Whitman School. Our undergraduate class is the second largest in history, which is 530 first-year students. We also had slightly less than 100 transfer students from across campus and other colleges and universities around the country. Now, that's despite us having an extremely low admissions rate. We were able to cut our admissions rate and still bring in this outstanding class, where we were looking at over 7,000 applicants to join Whitman as first-year students for what was scheduled to be about 450, 470 slots. What that means, mathematically speaking, is about 14 applicants for every single spot at Whitman, which makes it the longest line of students out the door for any building or any school on Syracuse University campus. And while we had this tremendously strong and large incoming class, we also made sure we had improved and strong academic readiness, where the incoming GPA or the high school GPA of the incoming class was 3.82. The average SAT was about 1331, which shows that our students are extremely well qualified academically to join us and live up to what we think is a strong brand and a higher level of engagement here at the Whitman School. We're also able to increase our overall diversity. And we talk about diversity, we talk about the gender diversity, where for the first time ever, we have more women than men entering the incoming class, where we had 53% of the incoming class were women. A few years ago, when we started tracking this more closely, we were in the mid 30s. So certainly changing 16% over time in a relative 16% of the incoming class over a few years is certainly a noticeable achievement. But we also had the strongest overall racial diversity. So we look at the ethnicity of our students. We're now seeing that approximately 1/3 identify as non-white, which we call students of color. And that really kind of shows that our student body is starting to reflect more of what we see in society. We also had a big push for first generation students. First generation students being students whose parents did not go to college or university. And so with that, we've developed a number of new programs to welcome those first generation students. The incoming class had approximately 19% incoming first generation students. So what that means is that our students need a lot of support, engagement, mentoring to help make sure that they're successful and get the most of their time here with us. At the graduate level, our residential MBA and MS class was also very strong. This was the second largest class in about 10 years. Again, we had very strong academic readiness as measured by their GPA, but we also continue to increase the work experience of our students. So having slightly more experience, slightly more knowledgeable students about how their graduate degree will support their career goals really helps to make sure that we provide additional rigor, provide additional relevance to help them launch their careers through us. We also had great diversity again. This is racial diversity. And when we're talking about graduate students, a lot of them are international. And so for us, being able to attract students from around the globe is a major priority. So this year, we actually, for the first time, had approximately 15% of our incoming graduate class coming from Nigeria. And that's noticeably different in the past, where we've historically been predominantly relied on students from China and India. We're now also adding on a number of different countries. So our incoming class ended up representing 17 different countries, 5 continents, and then adding on this large number of students from Nigeria and other places in Western Africa. The MBA in particular and the MS in Business Analytics continue to have the strongest demand. The MBA program in particular, for a few years in a row now, we've had very strong incoming classes, both in terms of qualifications, but also size. So overall, when we're thinking about the incoming class, this next generation of students who are launching their careers with us, we see across the board and across a variety of metrics, increased numbers and applications, very strong academic credentials, great diversity across a variety of metrics, and truly super engaged students. So it's not surprising then that the rankings organizations have continued to notice our improvements. So this year, our undergraduate rankings for the U.S. News and World Report broke back into the top 50. A few years ago, we were in the mid 60s, but this year we jumped from number 51 to number 47. And for the MBA program, the ranking by Bloomberg Business Week continued to improve. Last year we were number 68. This year we jumped up to number 61. And so although I like to mention that rankings are not ends to themselves, when they do reflect some of the metrics that we track, such as student quality, student placement, and quality of student experience, we rank them more valuably. So to the extent that these year after year are showing the improvements in the rankings, not just the incoming class numbers, it's another reinforcement for what we're doing is going very well. I'll also make sure I put in a little bit of a push for Outstanding Entrepreneurship Program. About a month ago, we were ranked number 2 globally. That's number 2 in the world for entrepreneurship research compared to other research-intensive universities. And then our undergraduate entrepreneurship program was ranked once again in the top 15 nationally. The graduate program was around number 20. And this again supports a lot of the excellence that the Whitman School is providing for our students in the area of entrepreneurship. So by and large, we're seeing an upwards trend also for our rankings, with some unique rankings being allocated to where we clearly are distinguishing ourselves, such as in the area of entrepreneurship. So a key priority for this year was to emphasize global experience now that we're safely in a post-pandemic world, and invest heavily in our experiential program. And when we think about these two areas, they really justify our business model, where students and business education in particular are increasingly global, where students are going to be working in a global world with people from around the world who have different values, different approaches, different perspectives on things. So to the extent that we can continue to expose them to strong global experiences, as well as make sure that they can put their work into practice. So not just the classroom work where they read about business issues, but actually get to try them out, whether they're through simulations, trips, internships, and a lot of the project-based learning that we're trying to do, making sure our students can understand the connection between their classroom work and the industry work that we'll be doing after. So given that priority for this year, we've launched and re-emphasized a lot of our key issues. So we are once again sending a full-time faculty member to lead our work at the London facility for SU Abroad. Last year, we sent Professor Kathy Meriton in the management department to London to make sure that we're offering Whitman quality classes while our large number of students is there in London. That includes courses that will help them count towards graduation as part of the sophomore core, but also importantly, making sure that we're taking advantage of being in London by having project-based learning, connections to strong alumni, and working with leading companies there. So as we think about how we're going to expand our global programming, the fact that we can have a pretty good base in London, financial capital of Europe, will be a strong precursor for a lot of the other work that we're going to do in the other SU Abroad sites in the future, and making sure that it's not just going to SU Abroad, but having a true Whitman experience while abroad. Knowing that not every student can go away for 15 weeks as part of their SU Abroad experience, we also launched a number of short courses. These are courses that are between a week and 2 weeks, where students will get to go and see the world for credit. And so there's educational components to all of these courses, but importantly, they connect to an amazing alumni base, to amazing international companies, and making sure that students can go to places that they wouldn't otherwise see as part of their SU Abroad education. So in August, we sent 60 online MBA students to Stockholm, Sweden to take a course on high growth startups. In the spring, we're going to be sending a group of students to Santiago, Chile, to understand finance in Latin America. We're going to send students back to Nairobi, Kenya, led by Professor Elizabeth Weimer, to have a hands-on experience working with local business people in Kenya, as well as experiencing life in a global subsidiary with a large multinational company. And these are the types of things that will change students' perspectives, because normally they wouldn't get to experience business in an emerging economy like in Kenya. And the feedback on that one has been outstanding so far. We're also going to continue our East Asia theme. Last few years, post-pandemic, we've been sending students to different places. Last year, we went to Korea and Japan, and this year we're sending a group of students to Singapore and Malaysia, knowing that we have strong alumni base in Singapore in particular, as well as some strong historic connections to companies that are there. So again, as we're thinking about expanding our global programs, we're investing in the SU Abroad types of facilities, mostly in Europe, as well as a variety of global short courses to make sure that our students get a true global experience, whether they can be away for a week or 3 weeks, as opposed to only the 14 weeks. We've also launched a number of new student programs. Our Whitman in New York City program is still up and running, doing very well. This January, we'll be offering up to 7 different courses in that intensive week before students return to campus to continue to take their spring semester. What that means is that our students will have a full week to be able to live, learn, experience New York City in a variety of classes in business analytics, in entrepreneurship, in accounting, finance, real estate, just to name a few. We'll also continue our career exploration trips. Over the last year, we've expanded the number of career exploration trips, essentially creating trips for every different major at Whitman. And what that does is exposes students to what life is like at top companies and given the major of their choice. And so they spend a few days there visiting companies, meeting with alumni. And this is a way that we help expose our students to what life in industry is like, to help inform their decision about their major, but also the types of jobs they would like within that major. We're We're going to continue with our study away semester. Last year, we grew to about a dozen students who spent the full semester in New York City with some structured programs, mentoring, and a lot of the outside of the classroom types of experience. And this is the variety of ways in which we support our students in really launching their career, especially in New York City. However, we're not only going to focus on New York City anymore. This year, and while I speak, we actually have a student group in Silicon Valley right now. This was made possible through very generous gifts of our alumni there to go and see what life in technology, in entrepreneurship, and in innovation in Silicon Valley is really like. And so this group is a combination of master's students and undergraduate students from a variety of majors who are looking to be in the Bay Area. After Thanksgiving, or the next little bit, we'll be sending students to Boston as well, predominantly MBA students who are looking to start their careers in a place that's not necessarily New York City. So we'll be working with a lot of leading companies in Boston and doing the same thing in the spring in Washington, D.C. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that our students have the ability to network and meet some of these outstanding companies as potential employers while they're there. And so, especially if your company is looking to hire students who are international or willing to provide visa sponsorship, we will definitely like to have your information to make sure that we can put you on our list of companies to potentially visit. Over the last few months, we've also launched 2 new programs, what I think are really timely and impressive. The first I want to mention is the NASS Mental Health Initiative, really working to provide students with the tools, support, approaches to deal with mental health challenges, whether they're related to anxiety, stress, disappointment, addiction. The variety of different topics related to mental health is clearly on the rise, and our understanding of how we can support each other in that effort is key. And so with this mental health initiative, it's providing students with the opportunity to learn more about how to address these things in themselves, in their team, and eventually in their employers. And it really is about destigmatizing this notion of mental health and really thinking about the important issues in life to help students achieve their lifelong success. And with that, we're partnering with the Falk School as well, leveraging their expertise in public health. We also launched the Panache Local Leadership Initiative. This is a brand new initiative to really support our students who want to be engaged in a civic manner here in Central New York. As Syracuse has become an increasingly attractive place to stay and work after graduation, making sure that our students have exposure to the history of Syracuse, and especially the companies that are here, the opportunities to be engaged, and the economic development role that our great students can have once they graduate is really this great initiative. So part of that is working together with local companies and local organizations to open doors, provide training, and also provides a number of local mentors to make sure that our students have the help and guidance that they need. Our Goodman Impress program is viewed increasingly so as a main differentiator for the Whitman School, and where a lot of our incoming class of undergraduates is making their decision based on the types of programming we provide in the Goodman Impress program. We've continued to roll out programming as part of that, including the Goodman Leaders Academy, which is a small group of handpicked students to really engage in high-level leadership activities, through the development of a digital repository to increase programming related to a lot of important soft skills that they can leverage for their personal success as well as their professional success. We've continued to offer innovative residencies for online programs, making sure that that our online students are getting, cutting edge, leading topics. And we've also had an increase in the number of outstanding guest speakers from leaders in industry offering to spend time with a large group, or in some cases a small group of students, to really provide great leadership and exposure to what life is like at the top of, in some cases, some publicly traded companies, how they're dealing with significant issues such as workplace misbehavior, and in some cases even providing a lot of off-the-record discussions of how they've dealt with some scandals. As part of our increased student programming, we're also sending students again back to a lot more cases. And then just this weekend, we had an MBA group placed first in the Humana Maze healthcare analytics case competition at Texas A&M. And so our MBA student group was recently named the best program. And I think this is tremendous for a number of reasons. if nothing else, to show how the quality of our students, our emphasis of, once again, on participating in these types of case competitions, but also the fact that this is about healthcare analytics, really reflects a lot of the work that we're starting to do in partnership with others on campus in related to healthcare and the already strong strengths that we have in analytics. And as part of that, we're also, really emphasizing some of those new outstanding frame-breaking types of events that we have. Micron, many of you have heard of as a new partner who's going to be investing $100 billion into the Central New York community. We've done a lot of programming with them. Just last week, we had a set of executives from Micron come to campus to meet with faculty, staff, students, and really start to further our partnership with them. You will certainly be hearing a lot about them in the next couple of years as we start to break ground on the largest semiconductor manufacturing plant, chip manufacturing plant in the country, and it'll be right outside of Syracuse. For the first time, we did our inaugural CUES 50 Alumni Entrepreneur Awards. I mentioned before our outstanding entrepreneurship program, but this time we celebrated the fastest growing alumni businesses. We started off at 50 for the awards, but there was over 150 outstanding applicants to that. So we had an award ceremony on Thursday night last week, and then all Friday morning, the alumni entrepreneurs stayed to work with that next generation of entrepreneurs, our students, providing guidance, panel, inside conversations on issues related to starting, funding, finding work-life balance, networking, and a variety of other issues. And last week was busy. Last week we had the Salzburg Memorial Lecture Program. This is the 74th version that we've offered of this, which makes it one of the longest supply chain related programs in the country. Whitman had the very first supply chain program in the country over 100 years ago. It too is an area of our outstanding excellence. So the fact that we can connect students, faculty, and staff with Micron, with excellent entrepreneurs, and with outstanding companies in supply chain really tries to emphasize where we're trying to go with more student programming to support student success. A further priority for this year is making Whitman accessible. And what that means is making sure that we are open to everyone, that we're supporting the rest of the university in some strategic ways, but also make sure that the students who do come to Whitman truly are at their best to achieve their own success. So a few ways that we've just over the last couple of months have been able to enact that is, again, a variety of partnership and dual degrees with other schools. If you look across the variety of programs we've launched in partnership with others over the last couple of years, I'm now quite confident saying Whitman probably has the most robust set of portfolio programs and dual partnerships of any top 35 business school. So just this year, we announced new partnership programs with public health and with sports management. Both of those are with the Falk School. And so our students who are applying right now, many are applying ED just this week, will also be eligible to apply for those new dual programs where students within 4 years will graduate with 2 degrees, both from Falk and from Whitman. And this offers a variety of a little bit of difference compared to some of the other programs we launched with the iSchool, with Newhouse, with Arts and Sciences, with Maxwell as well over the last few years. And at the graduate level, we've offered similar types of programs where students can walk away with 2 degrees in a limited period of time, including a new MS Biotechnology with the MBA, that's at the College of Arts and Sciences, a new Master's in Public Health with the MBA, that's at the Falk School. And then just 2 weeks ago, we haven't even sent our press release out yet, New York State has approved a brand new degree together with the Maxwell School in sustainability. So if you're on the lookout for a new announcement for the MS Sustainable Organizations and Policy, it'll be coming in the very near future, but I'm happy to announce that that has now been approved by New York State. And so we have another sustainability related initiative supported here at the Whitman School and in conjunction with the Maxwell School. It's also meant making sure that we're removing barriers to allow for more transfer students and non-traditional students to join in. What it is historically Whitman has been viewed as somewhat hard to get into if you don't apply from your first year. And so with that, we've been working to make sure that we have the structures, the systems, the processes in place to allow students from non-traditional backgrounds, such as military backgrounds, or where students have started their education, stopped, and coming back to higher ed, or done a few years or 1 year at other colleges and transferred into Whitman. We want to make sure that that is now accessible and possible to do. So more information to come on what exactly we're doing there, but we're working systematically to remove these barriers. And also making sure that all of our students feel welcome and successful. I mentioned before the large number of first generation students. We've created new programs, mentoring programs, staff programs to make sure our first generation and our multicultural students and parents have a lot of the information they need. So across a variety of different staff members, many under the leadership of Diane Crawford, we've been able to make sure that our students and their families have the right information to provide about opportunities, funding, and different areas to make sure that all students, especially those whose parents may not have gone to college, are going to get the right information to be successful. We've also formalized some mentoring programs. This is in particular for our MBA program and as part of some of the other things we're doing, like the Panache Local Leadership Initiative and our Goodman Leaders Academy, to make sure that these students have the support they need from our alumni to continue to be successful. And this is where I turn to you, our alumni, our friends, our donors, our corporate partners. Whitman needs your help. And we've done a great job over the last few years to build up a lot of new programs, to build up demand, to really supporting our students. But to continue that upwards trajectory, to continue the rise that we're seeing, we need your help. And increasingly, when we talk about the success factors for Whitman, for our students, our alumni come center. We talk about the Orange family all the time, and we really need to draw upon that family to continue to support our students. And I'd say there's two very easy, direct ways to get engaged. One is in working with students and the programmatic support, whether that's hiring our students. Job placement is one of the major success factors for our business school. It's also a key to rankings, but also taking on students for internships. And again, sometimes it would mean taking on sophomores. Sometimes it would mean taking on international students who may have more constrained options, but helping with job placement, helping with job interns. Take a chance on our students. You will be delighted. The feedback we get from industry is, we wish we had done this earlier. We wish we'd hired Whitman students earlier. They're outstanding. A lot of the programs we're putting in place are not only for their technical skills, but also for their interpersonal, their EQ skills. And so being able to take a student, see their leadership, see their ability, I'm sure you will be equally as impressed as I am. But also sometimes if you can't hire a student, mentor, be part of judging. Take time to do one-on-one meetings and counseling and sessions to really help guide their career choice. When I mentioned that we brought some high-profile alumni back, some of the things we try to do was get short and one-on-one sessions with some of our best students to make sure that they feel supported, they have direct access to successful alumni who can then provide some mentorship over time. We're always looking for project-based learning opportunities. I mentioned before, one of our highest priorities is really ramping up our experiential learning, and doing that with outstanding projects where students can get their hands dirty, get their teeth sunk into challenging, inspiring, motivating types of programs and projects really is a high priority. So if you have opportunity to work on a really truly good project, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll make sure we can find a student group to help work on that. But also, if nothing else, helping us to connect with top companies and using our corporate relations. We know that corporations too are looking for top talent. We believe firmly that we have the top talent. So connecting us to companies that that our students would like to be employed, where they can make a difference and help to really launch their careers, is always welcome. So please don't help to connect if you have ideas, connections at some of these elite companies where we believe Whitman students belong. And also, please continue to evangelize for us, talk about what's going on in the school, attract other terrific students, faculty, staff, other people that we'd want to bring in. As our alumni, you have a good sense of the types of qualities we'd like to bring in to support our school. So if you know good faculty, if you know great students, please don't hesitate to send them our way. And so hopefully we'll be able to have them join our team. And in many other ways, you also provide financial support that allows some of these experiential learning trips to happen, these global experiences to happen, whether that is for providing scholarship money, whether it's for programmatic support, so going directly to pay for some of these trips, or in some cases, the Dean's Fund. The Dean's Fund, is where we provide additional student support to make sure that our students all have the same opportunity to go on these great trips, have full student experience, and so that's where we use the Dean's money funding for. If you've seen the most recent Whitman magazine, it came out in the last week or so. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's probably in your inbox or inbound mail. We've put a couple QR codes going directly to our experiential program fund, making sure that we can put the funding from our alumni in support directly of those programs. So it doesn't come into the dean's office, it goes right to the student fund to make sure that we can have our students participate in a lot of these great things that we tout. But again, our alumni shape our success. We couldn't do it without you. All of these great things that we're hearing about are reliant on the success of our alumni. So in closing, thank you all for what you're doing. Thank you for your support of Whitman. Thank you for the support of our students. Be Orange, be Whitman. Thanks very much. So now I have a few minutes where I will address any of the questions that people might have. And now you should see me again. There you are. Here I am. So I will try to get to these as in order that I can. And try to get to all of them as quickly as I can. So one of the questions from Anonymous is, are the global short trip programs focused on graduate students, or are they predominantly undergraduate with SU Abroad for undergraduates? We actually have both. So some of the undergraduate trips are predominantly for undergrads. So for example, in May, when we send students to Kenya, that's been predominantly undergrad or only undergrad. The Malaysia and Singapore trip is going to be a little bit mixed, but predominantly undergrad. The SU Abroad right now is exclusively undergrad, but some of the graduate level ones like Sweden, going to Kenya again in January, and some of the other trips we have are also open to graduates. So we try to have options for both sets of students, knowing that the level of conversation and the level of engagement will be different depending on the level of education. But we are actively mindful of trying to make sure that all of our students have the opportunity to go abroad. That's also for students who are online students as well, where the average age is in the mid-30s. And so with them, they're mid-career, they have families, and we want to make sure that they also have the opportunity to go abroad. How many full-time residential MBA enrolled? We bring in now about 40 students per year. If we go back a few years ago, that was down to 20s. And so now we try to bring about 40 students a year for the full-time residential programs. Now, what that does is we're not a very large MBA program, residential program. So we focus on quality. We focus on we focus on making sure we can have that outstanding student experience, and where the personal touch really fits in, as opposed to kind of some of the other business schools where they have very large MBA classes. I don't foresee us in the next little bit going up to 100, 200 MBA students for our residential programs. I think we have a pretty good sweet spot for much of what we do in that residential program. Zoom user Maria says, thanks so much. Will there be any dual graduate programs with Newhouse? I will say cautiously yes, but I think they'll look different than other things. So we've been working with our friends at Newhouse on a couple of different things, including a music industry degree. People might be familiar with the Bandier undergraduate degree. Similar type of thing at the graduate level. So that's early stages, is not finalized, but there's things like that where we're offering partnerships through them. We have not immediately had any conversations that have come pretty far about an actual dual degree, but we're partnering with them to make sure that their students, the Newhouse students, are working with us, to make sure there's some business programs. And what we've also done with Newhouse in particular is worked on, having things treated special, where if you have students who are dual students, so, have about 30, 40 Newhouse duals every year. We want to make sure that we treat them special. So one of the VIP alumni we had was actually a family member, came back, and we only invited the Newhouse duals, knowing that we really want to make sure that those students who are outstanding have that little bit more unique experience, as opposed to saying this is open to all students. I have a question here saying, a few years back, Whitman offered a 5-year program where the student would graduate with an undergraduate degree and an MBA. I saw a 3+3 with a law school, but is there a program that allows the students with an MBA as well? Yes, we actually have 2 of those. We call them 3+2 programs. One is with the College of Engineering and Computer Science. That's up and running. We bring in between 4 and 6 students per year for that. And so they get their engineering degree, and then they finish up with their MBA. We have the same type of program with music industry as well. And so we have between music, and that's a folk program, and then with the engineering school, those are currently the 3+2 programs where you have other degrees across campus, and finishing off with the MBA. I said currently on purpose because we've had some preliminary conversations with other schools about expanding that potential to them. And then I mentioned before some of the other dual degrees that we have at the MBA level. We have, now we have a handful of those, most recently public health and MS biotechnology. But I foresee us having more of those in the future. So thank you for that question. Entrepreneurship is an important topic and program in the recent past. How and where is AI being integrated into the education process these days? Great. I love that question because there's a lot of work that's happening inside the classroom and also outside of the classroom. When we think about AI, it's at still a very emerging stage of development. So a lot of what we do is we talk and we work with faculty on the area of business technology in general, and AI being one of those tools. So with that, we provide some education on how to do prompts, what is the effectiveness of certain prompts, how you can use AI in your searches, and a lot of the kind of the entry level tasks that many of our students will be using AI. And I could provide a greater variety, but I've seen it used for communications class, where you're learning to use AI to do kind of press release type stuff. For entrepreneurship, to say, hey, how would you make this picture look if you're trying to sell it, using a select voice. Certainly that's on the more of the generative AI side. We're also using it very clearly in our business analytics and a lot of our other kind of technology-based classrooms, whether it's our class on cryptocurrency and blockchain, whether it's on our class in machine learning, whether it's in a lot of the different analytics courses that rely on other tools such as Python, RStudio, Tableau, Excel, and the benefits and tools of using AI in the educational process. Now, what I think is this becomes more cemented, and as we have a little bit more clarity into how best practice looks with AI, and remember, I think ChatGPT was only launched about a year ago. I suspect that we will include generative AI and those tools, just like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we made Excel required learning, PowerPoint required learning 20 years ago or more, when we had Microsoft Word as required learning. So as these tools become cemented, we'll make sure we have more stability and structure to that. One of the things that the faculty did last year was vote through the use of technological skills as a required consideration in our required curriculum, which is something that we will need to make sure we measure, introduce, and then assess student learning. So there's more to come on that one, but it's certainly an area where Whitman is being very mindful to follow, to monitor, but also make sure we can infuse some of the latest, greatest in the classroom across a variety of different topics. Another question here: as the employment landscape changes, will there be focus in educating students about the employment compliance and legal landscape? Will there be education program on human resources and partnership as future leaders? Yes. So certainly we do have some, some people related classes. Compliance, legal landscape around that is important. I think especially as we think in higher ed, some of the new legislation that's been in place that restricts hiring practices and puts an emphasis on different ways of doing things. We'll continue to include that material in our courses, and also think about how we expand courses to prepare students for those managerial roles in people management and in human resources, and especially as future leaders. So a lot of the area where outside of the classroom, where we talk about our Leaders Academy, local leadership initiative, a lot of that is becoming future leaders and understanding people's diverse backgrounds, understanding what requirements are, but also truly what aspirations and goals and success would look like. So as the world continues to change, becomes more complicated, especially in employment situations, we'll make sure we keep that front of mind with what we're doing. So that's the last question I have popped up. So if there's any more questions, happy to stick around and address one more. And not seeing any more, I want to again thank you for all that you're doing to support us. And I'll go back to my initial opening comments, which is Whitman truly is a school on the rise. There's so many great things going on with our faculty, with our staff, with our students, really making sure that what we're doing is preparing students for their future success, especially success in a world that has a variety of change, whether it's in the legislative landscape, global political landscape, technological landscape, and a variety of other ways. So with that, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you at future events. And if you have any ideas about how you can help on employment, on opening up doors for students, I would be very happy to engage in those conversations and connect with the right person at Whitman, and being able to help support you. So again, thanks very much, everyone. Have a great day.